took the trees. Our fruit trees. They took the trees and sold us back the fruit. Then they took the water. Rivers, rain, springs that fed civilizations for thousands of years, bottled it and sold it back to us. They took the land that existed here long before any human drew lines around it. And they said, if you want to stand here, you better have a payment plan. Everything we need to exist, food, water, shelter, was already here. Nobody created it. But somehow, you were born owing for it. Am I the only one this drives mad? I mean, why is a free life such a crazy idea? Why does simply existing without bills, debt, or permission sound like a fantasy? Why in the hell did we ever let anybody convince us that this is the way things were supposed to be?
Welcome to Mr. Love 1985. You know, Joker had some valid points there, and I've heard some of those before, and I feel most, if not all of that is true. I believe we have a creator in heaven that created all of this stuff for us, and everything we needed to survive was already here. The water, the trees, shelter, everything that they make us pay for now, I believe was our birthright. Just being born, just like it was in the beginning. I think we had everything we needed, and he had already set everything up for us to be able to thrive. Just like when we have our own children, we have an environment to bring them home in. We provide them shelter and food and love and everything they need to survive. I believe our creator has done the same thing for us. Somewhere along the way, all this got hijacked from us and sold back to us. And we've been told, like, we're basically just meaningless, that you were born, you work your whole life, make sure to pay all your taxes, someday maybe retire, move to Florida, die. That's it. I believe the original plan was everything we needed from birth would be provided for us. We've all been lied to since birth and indoctrinated into things that are not the way it was supposed to be. That's why we're all tired and fighting each other and fighting over resources. I actually feel like if you look at the word, there's water above us and water below us. So I think we have infinite amount of water actually, and they're trying to tell everybody that there's droughts everywhere and we have to conserve water and these cities are running dry. I think if you actually drill deep enough, there's plenty of water for everybody, and they know that. Obviously, they don't want to share that with us. Also, we have all these trees and abilities to grow our own food, trees for shelter, things like that. They took all the trees. They took millions and millions of acres of forest down where we could have used that wood to build our own houses and shelters and things like that. And then, you know how much houses cost today. We have people to do that for us, people to grow our own food for us and harvest the food for us. And most of it's poison. We're buying poisoned food when we could be growing it ourselves. And speaking about power, I believe there's a power that is inside us that is all around us as well. And it's called ether. And actually, back in the day, ether was on the periodic table and they took it off. You know, people like Einstein and Tesla knew about the ether. Tesla even made a car with no engine that ran purely on ether. Imagine an engineless car with just a few parts that ran on ether continually. You know, what does that say about gas prices today? How amazing would that be to have a car that can get us anywhere we need to be and runs on purely the power that's already in the air? Now, there's ways to harness this ether. And if you look at any of these old world buildings that are out there, they had spires at the top of these. And these spires would harness that ether to not only power the whole building, but other things they wanted to do as well. There's ways of harnessing this power even today. You know, if you look at copper, you can take copper wire and wrap it around, like, say, a pole or a stick, like a wooden stick, stick that in the ground in your garden, and it's going to pull the energy from the ether, and you will see your garden flourish way better than it did before. Copper was also used in pipes for, like, your watering pipes in old homes and old buildings and stuff like that, because it actually naturally purified the water. Now we all have plastic in our houses and our piping. Obviously the plastic's not purifying our water. I think it's actually doing the opposite and not carrying any kind of electrical charge. And if you look at it too, we're all electrical. Like, we are electrical beings. We have electricity running inside us. A good example of that is, when someone has a heart attack, what's the first thing they do? They go and grab a defibrillator, rub it together, and shock that person, give them that jolt right in their chest to jumpstart their heart, just like a car. You know what I mean? Just like jumpstarting a car, our bodies are electrical, and they know that. And I do believe we have power inside us given to us from our Father in heaven, like I said, being electrical beings and stuff like that. I grew up in the 80s, so I have a lot of 80s references. One of the shows I actually watched as a kid in the 80s and kind of molded me a little bit was He-Man, Masters of the Universe. When you look at He-Man, he raises his sword up to the sky and calls out, "I have the power." But if you look up, there's lightning and everything. So his sword is like harnessing that energy, pulling it from somewhere, and then infusing it inside himself. And I think we have this same ability. I'm not telling you to hold up a sword in a lightning storm and say you have the power, but we do have the power to ground, where, you're going outside and you're connecting to the earth barefoot. You can touch a tree. And I think there's an electrical field, an energy charge that flows through us and through nature. And we need to get more of that. I think these things were taken away from us with, wearing shoes all the time, having concrete under your feet, not being outside in nature. These things all affect us. I think these were given to us, and these things are important. There's so many things out there with like frequencies and stuff. Speaking of old world buildings, not only did they have those spires, which they took down, but they also had bells. And I believe bells are super healing, and they knew that. You go to these churches that have all these ornate designs, and they used sacred geometry, because I think the patterns that you see in these windows and other things are actually resonating with our bodies. We have the same patterns as far as frequency in our bodies. And the bells, they would ring them, and it wasn't just to call people into town or call people to church. It actually was healing for the people. These were like healing, literal healing centers. From the frequencies from those bells would heal the people. And that's why they took him down. They said, we took all the bells down because of the world wars, and we needed to melt them down to make ammunition and stuff. But I think it's because they didn't want anybody healed. They didn't want us having those frequencies that heal us. And speaking of frequencies, we have all these frequencies around us with Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, cell phones. These are definitely not attuned to the natural healing frequency that was given to us. I think the bells were also used to protect people from evil spirits out there. And actually, I'll give you a case in point. If you look at the old movie Spider-Man 3 with Tobey Maguire, when he needs to get the Venom suit off himself, the evil symbiote, where does he go? He goes to the church and rings that bell, and that frequency that's supposed to heal us actually does the opposite for these evil beings and things like that. And I think there's some merit to that. Now, the real question is, now that we know these things and a lot more people are waking up to these things, we are more powerful than they want us to believe. They want us to think we're powerless, we have no rights or anything like that. That's just how it is. You're born, you live, you work, pay taxes, you die. That's it. I think we're made for way more than that, and we're way more powerful than we give ourselves credit for. The question becomes, now that we know, what are we going to do with this information? Nice talk. We'll see you guys in the next one. Later.